Welcome in, everybody. Let's get right into it. Alright, so Invasion of the Body Snatchers. Right, that movie that came out in, I think it was the 70s. And it's been rebooted and redone, retooled over and over and over again. It's become a bit of a trope in science fiction. And the trope is not the story of the movie. The trope is people being replaced, right? Either by aliens or clones, drones, automobiles, robots. There's a bunch of examples, and we've seen it in a ton of different movies. Almost every long-running sci-fi show that I can think of has done a body swap or body capture, invasion of the body snatcher type episode. Stargate's done it, Star Trek, Warehouse 13. There's a show called Invasion in 2005. It only lasted one season, but it was basically the same story as Invasion of the Body Snatchers, just with clones. Stepford Wives, Battlestar Galactica, it's pretty big ones. Yeah, so what would that look like in real life, I think? And I kind of really like this delineation, this rabbit hole that we keep digging down with subsequent episodes, because they kind of all have one thing to do with each other, if not a couple of things. Now, in sci-fi, we get, people being replaced with clones. We talked about clones a lot. We talked about robots doing it. Robots can come in and replace people. Drones, you could they did this in Star Wars The Clone Wars, where you have actual reconstruction surgery done on you, and it takes all of 5 minutes, where they just stick a needle in your neck and it changes your DNA to be that of the person you're trying to copy. But I was wondering what it would take in real life. So, if somebody were to get replaced, I think it's going to take a lot of work. It might even take more than one person. It might take a team of people, or it could just take one person with a lot of really high-tech stuff and know-how, and someone who's very meticulous and committed, because it's like I said, it's a lot of work. And a lot of the technology and things that they would use is pretty readily available. I mean, it's really easy to make a deep fake of somebody, fake social media account. Who hasn't had a second Facebook of themselves going around adding people? That's not them. They got quote unquote hacked. It's somebody else trying to be them, right? People get their credit cards stolen all the time, right? So you could make a paper trail with that person's name on it, and to law enforcement, FBI, the banks, they would all see that and think, oh, okay, well, nothing out of the ordinary, right? If it's just purchases and activity going on in kind of the same areas as that person, right? Banks catch this all the time. If my credit card somehow made it up into Canada and was being run at a whole bunch of restaurants up there, my bank is going to freeze that card and call me and say, hey, are you in Canada? And be like, no, of course not. Say, oh, okay, well, someone pretending to be you, or someone who stole your credit card is running it up in Canada. So it's not too crazy or too out of this world that somebody could be replaced in real life. I mean, you could use AI-generated content to keep up appearances online, right? You could feed an AI program how that person speaks, how they pause, the grammar and syntax that they use, what they sound like, all that kind of stuff. And you could, using artificial intelligence programs, you can pump out everything that they would say in certain situations. It might help if you sounded like that person already. Like, I don't recommend someone who looks like Danny DeVito trying to replace somebody that looks like Shaquille O'Neal. Like, it's not going to work for very long. You can use something called a vocal emulator that will take your speech input, and the output will be what that person sounds like. So there's a lot that you can do. Hell, you could have a whole face-off situation, like the movie Face-Off with Nick Cage and John Travolta, where their faces get taken off of one another and they switch. So the cop that is Nick Cage is trying to catch John Travolta's character, and it's a really fun movie, especially because Nicolas Cage is so ridiculous in everything that he does in that movie, especially when he's running around as the priest. So you could literally take somebody's face. It would very much help if the person that was being replaced is relatively the same height and weight as you. Speaking of surgeries, you could also do things like get plastic surgery. You can use wigs and prosthetics, some pretty intense and hardcore stuff. If that person is bald, you could have your hair lasered off so it doesn't grow. If they have, say, a scar or something on their hand in a particular way, you could have that same exact thing done to you. There's a bunch of really small but essential things that you could do to actually replace that person. Now, to replace somebody with sci-fi tech and methods that we see in movies and TV shows, I think we're still way too far out for that, but it can be done in a lot more menial and arduous ways. I mean, like I said, it's going to take some serious commitment if you want to do it and never get caught. I mean, you will be living that person's life every day as that person. You know, kind of sacrificing who you are and your life in the process. So, in a way, you're kind of killing who you are after having taken out the person that you're replacing. So 2 people's lives kind of get ruined in this process. And, well, you know what? Unless you consider that people can live very full lives nowadays while never leaving their home, I mean, you can basically do everything from your house. You can work a remote at-home job. You can FaceTime your families, order groceries and furniture, have them delivered to your house. You can pay bills and do your taxes online. It's entirely conceivable that this person never need leave their home. So if you go after somebody like that, it's really easy to do this. Now, of course, the hardest thing, I think, would be to end or cover up any personal relationships, like girlfriends or husbands or best friends, whatever. I would advise just going for somebody who doesn't have too many complex relationships in the first place. I don't advise you do this at all, but, if you were to do it, make it easier on yourself. If you really want to engineer a good person swapping, you might want to also do some dastardly scheme, and this is where it gets kind of Scooby-Doo, right? Put that person in a situation where they majorly embarrass themselves, maybe even a couple of times, and they have as many people witness it as possible. Maybe you even blast it all over social media. So whenever people experience shame and humiliation, especially in public, there's this natural societal distancing from that person that occurs. Like, people around you will want to leave you alone just out of instinct. I can't quite tell what it is, but maybe it's that natural human empathy that we have, that something inside of us kind of clicks and goes, oh, okay, well, I would hate for that to happen to me, so I'm going to leave this person alone because that might be what they need. So that could give whoever is doing the swapping a good window to jump in, take that person, bury them out in the woods, take their life, right? Might give them a couple of days to get the prosthetics right, find the correct kind of wig, get the right colored contacts, get all of their personal information like banking, social security, all that kind of good stuff, and actually set them up as that other person. Hell, you could take it a step further, and you could hire some scientists that are working on stem cell research and bring those scientists some of the DNA from this person and say, hey, I want you to take the stem cells you're working on, make it match these DNA patterns as closely as possible, and graft those into me somehow. Like, try to blend that DNA with mine as much as possible. So if there is ever, say, like a cheek swab or something done, the forensics that whoever does will come back and say, that DNA is not a match for what we have on file. It's a match for somebody completely different. So if you want to fool that forensic testing, you will also need to have a genetic makeup, a genetic mask of that person's DNA somehow embedded over yours. So, yeah, like I said, it's going to take a lot of work. It's going to be really arduous, and it makes for some damn good science fiction. I mean, one of the only things I liked about the latest Doctor Who specials was, I think it was the second one, where David Tennant, Doctor, and Donna are out in space. They find themselves on the spaceship, and they're kind of trapped there. And there are these two aliens that are from the nothingness that is beyond the edge of reality. And these two nothingness entities are trying to replace the Doctor and Donna by becoming them, but they're getting the size portions all wrong. So one of them's arms will be too long, and then they kind of get the jaw like it expands or it goes too small, and it's really creative how they do that episode with the special effects. It was creepy, it was scary, it was pretty damn compelling. So if you have Disney Plus, it's definitely worth a watch because it's pretty fun. But I think probably the best story in general that deals with this trope of body snatching or replacing people, for me, is probably Battlestar Galactica. I mean, it's a story about the fight for humanity's survival against a sentient robot race that is trying to replace them in every sense of the word, right? There's even some of the Cylons who are replacing the humans without knowing that they're Cylons. It's almost Shakespearean in a way, and it's really fun. So, second Doctor Who special that came out in December, and Battlestar Galactica. Those are my recommendations for right now. Go out and watch them. Have yourself a good time. Start off this new year really well. But that is all I have for right now, guys. Thank you all so much for tuning back in. Stick around for more Sci-Fi Unchained. But for now, live long and prosper, my friends, and may the Force be with us all.